That was a whale. And I'm going to find a way to sort of bring this video back to talking about whales. But I was thinking, the other day I heard this this saying, and I've heard this before, but the other day it sort of stuck with me a little bit more than the previous times I've encountered it, right? And someone said, the way or how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And usually when people say that, they mean that, if you're lazy with the small stuff, you're going to be lazy with the big stuff, right? If you can't clean your car, you're not going to have a tidy house, and if you don't have a tidy house, you're not going to run a tidy business, right? But if we take that a little bit further, and you sort of realize that even things that are good for you, right? How you do the things that are good for you, let's say, how you learn one piece of information is how you learn all sorts of information, right? It's how you learn a new word in another language is the same way, you learn to, you learn the material that helps you pass that master's in finance, right? Or that master's degree, or the PhD or anything like that. But I think more so, how you do anything is how you do everything. It touches on something that I wanted to talk about today, which is all too often we rush things, right? You'll see that I feel like in our culture, in the sort of time that we're in, everyone wants everything quickly, and I think it's great to get things quickly, right? But if you get used to getting things quickly, then you start wanting to get everything quickly, right? Tying back to that concept, right? Of how you do anything is how you do everything. If you're so used to, getting your food at the press of a button, I can order Uber Eats and have, whatever food I want at my house in 20 minutes. There's no friction for payment. There's no friction for, sometimes you don't even have to see the driver or the delivery guy, he can just leave it outside. If you're so used to that sort of frictionless, easy, sort of auto experience where you're not even thinking, right? You're just pressing buttons on a screen and getting food. If you get used to that, then you're going to start looking for that ease and that sort of efficiency, if you want to call it that, and that sort of brain off autopilot in other aspects of your life, right? And that's where I'm going with this, is that I think one area in which I see almost everyone today, and I myself am guilty, right? But we often get really lazy and really complacent and really impatient when it comes to learning, right? When it comes to learning, and I don't mean learning in a classroom context necessarily, but learning who we are as people, right? Discovering new aspects of ourselves, new sides of ourselves, discovering the things that we love, the things that we don't necessarily like, the things that we're talented in, the things that we would like to, acquire talent in or become more proficient in. I think now we're so used to having everything on autopilot because of this, extrapolation of, because this part of my life is so easy, because, I don't have to think about where I'm going to get my coffee or how I'm going to make my coffee or how I'm going to get my food delivery or what I'm going to watch on Netflix, because that stuff is so easy. We get used to that ease and we start applying it to parts of our lives where, these things are not meant to be easy, right? Learning and acquiring a skill is not meant to be easy, right? Learning a language isn't meant to be as easy as Duolingo makes it, right? It's not meant to be. And this isn't taking a shot at Duolingo, right? All I'm saying is that what's so funny is that what is sort of arisen from this love of ease, this love of efficiency, and this sort of worship that we have for the easy path, right? The path of least resistance, right? What has sort of come about is that now when you walk into a bookstore, it's saddening because you walk into a bookstore. I went to a Barnes & Noble about like 2 or 3 weeks ago with one of my friends, and the entirety of the bottom floor, as soon as you walk in, everything that you see, there's a little bit of fiction, there's a little bit of contemporary writing, stuff like that, but it's all self-help books. All of it is self-help. all of it is, catchy title. This is the 10 things you need to know about business. This is the 4 things you need to know about money, right? This is how I quit my job in 30 days, right? This is how, this is how I stopped caring about what other people think, right? All of these sort of easy solutions, these quick fixes to really deep-seated issues, right? And these are issues that people have been sort of grappling with for thousands of years, right? As long as you have written history, you have people sort of dealing with these struggles, right? Oh, I don't have enough confidence. Oh, I'm not a big fan of my boss. Oh, maybe I'm not in the best shape, right? And where was I going with this? So, self-help has sort of arisen as this huge, popular, and really promoted genre because we've now started looking as a society towards these quick fixes and this quick learning, right? This easy learning. Because again, how you do anything is how you do everything. And if one part of your life becomes easy, you now start looking for ways to simplify and make other more demanding parts of your life easy, right? Self-help has compartmentalized and sort of made easy things that are not meant to be easy, right? It should not be easy for you to gain self-confidence. It should be a long and arduous and difficult process. It should require years and hours and days and months of effort. It should require you, whatever it be, it should be you, sitting and reflecting on yourself and what makes you you, or what makes you valuable, what do you love about yourself, what you, let's say, want to improve about yourself. It should require, hours in the gym. It should require hours in the library, right? It should require you to sort of surmount certain obstacles, so that you can build that self-confidence on pillars, not of sand, but on pillars of, bedrock, things that you can point at and say that these are my accomplishments. And I have this, I like David Goggins said this before, that he has this sort of undeniable list of proof that he is who he says he is, right? I've done this race, I've done this challenge, I've done this, whatever. And it's this sort of foolproof, and it's this sort of, it's concrete, right? Self-confidence based on concrete accomplishment. And it's far more important and far more valuable and real than self-confidence based on, a few good chapters in the self-help book, where you've sort of done this mental jujitsu, this sort of mental aikido, right? To sort of get yourself into a state of confidence, right? And that's what I sort of want to get across in this video is, and the topic today is that we have to learn that more often than not, and I truly believe this, efficiency in all regards is our enemy, right? Whenever you make something more efficient, you're taking away so much of that thing, that process, that thought, that idea's value, because you have to, right? To make something efficient and seamless and frictionless, you have to remove, the spikes. You have to remove the pit and the seed from the fruit, right? But what's the problem with that is that when you have, seedless fruit, you can't, plant for another season, right? You need those obstacles and those borders and those things to push up against and to really challenge yourself, because without giving yourself the chance to overcome those things, you're never going to grow, right? And we're just too used to making things efficient. And when going back to that, how you do anything is how you do everything, it really does make sense because, if you, for instance, don't know how to take proper notes, right? If you are still taking notes on, like a computer, or if you're doing like speech to text notes, if you don't know how to do notes, that means you don't know, how to learn. And if you don't know how to learn, it means that there's, you don't know how to do a very large, you don't know how to do something that is so sort of central and so concrete and so important to becoming who you are, right, as a person, or part of your becoming, right, as a person. So let me give some concrete examples, right? These are some things that I think, I try and work on this as much as possible, and I'm not the best with this, and I really try and catch myself out every day, if I'm doing these things properly. But first of all, when it comes to learning something, right? When it comes to discovering something, study it, like Musashi says in that previous video we talked about, study it without a teacher, right? Sort of jump in and sort of see if you'll float, right? Don't be afraid to jump in the deep end when it comes to a new topic or a new idea or a new sort of avenue in your life, right? Jump in head first. Just do it. And if you drown, you drown. You go on to the next body of water, right? It's not that big of a deal. But when you're gonna go out and set out to sort of learn something or discover something, the number one thing I would recommend is to take handwritten notes, right? Take handwritten notes, read physical text, and honestly, if you don't understand something, don't run straight away to Google and sort of get another person's interpretation of that thing, but instead sort of sit there, internalize the idea or the thing that you don't understand. Sorry guys, there's a siren. Wait for that to pass. There we go. Hopefully everyone's okay. It's an ambulance. Hopefully everyone's good. But sit and think for a bit. You know, when you read a passage, you know, in a book, especially in older classical literature, there's 2-3 times on a page where I'll sit and think, oh my God, what does this mean, right? Don't sort of rob yourself of that mental exercise and that mental sort of training of sitting with your own thoughts and your own references and your own knowledge and your own history of ideas and your own sort of wisdom. Don't rob yourself of that by just running to Google or to Claude or to, you know, Gemini or whatever this AI and say, hey, what does Melville mean by this? You know, what does Wilde mean by this? Be comfortable sort of not knowing sometimes, and be comfortable sort of tackling those things by yourself, right? Because that's how you build that competency of scholarship, right? True scholarship. Take handwritten notes. There is nothing better than handwritten notes, and you guys can, you don't have to take my word for it. You can go online. There's dozens and dozens of studies that show that, you know, the more effort and the more, the harder it is to take notes. Like, for instance, they compared, I think, writing notes on a laptop versus voice to speech versus typing notes, maybe on like a phone, versus, you know, digital note taking versus, you know, paper and pen. And what they found in all these studies, and you can go online and you can see this for yourselves, but paper and pen hardwires the information that you're learning into your brain in a way that no other sort of medium of note taking is able to do, right? And it's because there's so much mental labor and mental effort in moving your fingers in a way to create each character, and then to form the characters into a word, and then to form the word into a coherent, cohesive sentence, and then form that sentence into a paragraph. You know, it's so deliberate and it's so slow, and because of that, putting ink to paper in a way captures that knowledge and sort of burns that knowledge into your mind so much in a so much sort of more efficient and better way than writing notes on a keyboard, right? Even though the keyboard is much faster and you can write far faster with the keyboard, it's the slower, more deliberate note taking that is proven to you know, cause longer lasting and more, I guess, productive note taking sessions, right? You get longer lasting knowledge and true learning from physical notes, right? Also, you know, lectures, right? How many of us are in university, or, you know, me personally, I'm a big fan of those online lectures, right, on YouTube you can find, or, you know, masterclass or whatever they may be. But lectures, don't be so quick to also just jot notes in the lecture. Maybe sometimes think and be confused by a lecture and just listen and just be okay not understanding what the hell the guy's talking about. Listen to it 2-3 times. You know, if by then you still have zero clue what's happening, then maybe, you know, turn to some online help. But sometimes just sitting and listening, not saying a word, not writing notes, just sort of trying to wrap your head around ideas, it can do so much good for you. And it can really help build that, again, that capacity for scholarship and that capacity to truly be, you know, someone that learns and someone that can grow and acquire these new skills, you know, whatever your age may be, whatever your discipline, your focus, whatever you do for work, right? You know, those are, I guess, so see, it's funny, I actually have written notes, very quick notes for this video, but the overarching sort of idea that I want to get at with this video is that And I know I haven't followed the clearest train of thought, but thank you guys. If you're still watching, thank you for bearing with me until now. But the point I'm trying to get across is how you do anything is how you do everything. Meaning, if you don't take your time with something as simple as writing down notes or writing down something that you need to remember, you're going to get a bad result, and it's going to transpire and sort of snowball into getting bad results into larger aspects of your life, right? If you don't want to take the time to be deliberate about, brushing your teeth, then you're going to lack that sort of mindset and mental framing that will help you achieve those bigger goals that you have, right? And as an extension of that, or a logical next step, I think that we all just need to slow down a lot, right? I feel like I rush a lot. I feel like I'm always eager to read the next thing. I'm always eager to sort of, I'm eager to read the next thing. I'm eager to jump to the next new idea. I'm always eager to, try something new. I'm always eager to, and that's a great eagerness to have, right? But maybe I'm missing something, which is the eagerness to sort of sit back and sort of enjoy the processes and the place that I'm in, right? Maybe I'm missing that eagerness to sort of take things slowly, right? And to sort of be more deliberate and to sort of savor moments and experiences and processes, right? Back to the example I gave about, building self-confidence, right? If you're in the process of achieving something, there's going to be highs and lows, right? If you're in the process of starting a business, there's going to be days where you don't want to wake up. There's going to be days where things are bad. You're down on money. You've been working for hours on end, for weeks on end, and you have nothing to show for it. But you're going to have those days because those balance out the good days that you will have, right? When that business finally takes off, or when you get your first investor on board. Those highs have to be balanced by those lows. And I think that if you take your time, you learn to appreciate that even the worst moments and the things that take the most effort and the most energy, those are beautiful too, right? And those are all part of the process too. And I think it makes you a better person. So I guess the final thing I'll leave you guys with is that how you do anything, is how you do everything. So take your time with things, be deliberate with things. If you're going to write well. If you're going to read properly, read thoroughly. If you're going to learn something, take your time with it. And if you're going to develop slowly and develop properly, right? One foot in front of the other. Like Musashi says, one step by step, walk the 1,000-mile road, right? Don't look for a ride along the way. Don't look for, don't try and hitchhike. Don't try and call an Uber. Walk it step by step and learn to enjoy each step and learn to be more deliberate. And I think that, me personally, I found that it leads to a more fulfilling life and it leads to more fulfilling days. And I think it's just a better way to go about things. And it gives you more pride in not only who you are, but how you approach things, right? It gives you a little bit more pep in your step, right? You sort of go into the world knowing that you may move slower, but there's weight behind every step, right? And I guess I'll leave you guys with that one. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you guys soon.